calm down. Please.
The story began with Bill stepped outside for a cigarette, the flame catching the wind as he cupped his hands around the lighter. A man approached. He asked to borrow the lighter. He said he was headed for Amsterdam, Bill would later recall. The man made small talk about the weather. Bill offered nothing in return. His eyes moved constantly. Bill was an air marshal. Bill was always scanning, even now, especially now. Becca, clutching the handle of a small pink suitcase, a flight attendant named Nancy approached with the practiced warmth of someone who had comforted hundreds of unaccompanied minors. But Becca refused to move. Her hand kept reaching for something that wasn't there. Her doll, left behind at the security checkpoint. Bill found it tangled in a bin. Becca's face transformed when she saw it. She boarded without further resistance. Don't drift off just yet. Stay with us. If you haven't subscribed, hit that button now so you don't miss our next story. The cabin pressurized with the low whine of conditioned air. A man named Zach dropped into the seat beside Bill, the kind of passenger who would ask too many questions. A woman named Jen appeared. She asked to swap seats so she could have the window. Zach agreed without hesitation. Jen settled in next to Bill with the quiet confidence of someone who had planned this moment.
Can I get you gentlemen anything before we taxi?
No thanks, Nance. I'm fine.
Captain David and First Officer Kyle Rice ran through the cross-check procedures. Bill's phone vibrated against his thigh, a message from his bosses at the TSA. They wanted a status report, a lie constructed from the hollow assurance that everything was proceeding normally. The plane began to taxi. The takeoff was rough, a sheer layer that bounced the fuselage and sent a ripple of gasps through the cabin. Beside him, Jen watched with something that might have been curiosity. Jen asked about his daughter. She had seen the ribbon, the way he touched it. He lied and told her the girl was 17. When Bill asked what Jen did for work, she deflected the question with a smile and said she needed some sleep.
Do you know him?
The restroom was small and reeked of recycled air. Bill locked the door, lit a cigarette, and let the smoke curl toward the vent. Then Bill's phone buzzed. He read the message once, then again, then a third time because his brain refused to accept the words. The sender claimed to see him smoking and warned that he should be more careful. He looked around the cabin from his seat. Nothing suspicious. Another message arrived. The sender instructed him to set a timer for 20 minutes and promised that someone on the plane would die when it went off. Bill stood and walked the aisle with the casual gait of a passenger stretching his legs. Behind him, Jen's eyelids flickered open. She watched him pass. In the next cabin, his friend and undercover agent, Jack Hammond. Bill's index finger tapped his thigh twice, a silent signal that they needed to talk.
I was a cop for 25 years. I knew men like you.
Men like me? Men like me follow goddamn protocol.
The next message arrived as Bill returned to his seat. The hijacker demanded $150 million, provided an account number, and reminded Bill that the timer was running. In the narrow space between the beverage carts, Bill spoke in a whisper that could cut glass. He asked if this was Jack's idea of a joke. Jack stared at him. He accused Jack of sending the messages, of setting the countdown, of orchestrating the demand for money. Jack's face did not change. He told Bill to give the phone back and offered his own device for inspection. Jack insisted he did not know what game Bill was playing, but he was not part of it. He pointed out that someone could not simply kill a person on a plane and get away with it.
He suddenly sits up. He says,
Captain David looked up from his instruments with the weary expression of a man who had heard every possible in-flight emergency. Bill told him about the messages. The captain's face drained of color. He explained that they were over the middle of the Atlantic and that an emergency landing was not an option.
do we have a situation?
Bill turned to leave. He asked to see the CCTV feeds. There were dozens of cameras covering the cabin, too many for one pair of eyes. Bill called for Jen. She came without hesitation. When he handed her a pen and asked her to mark every passenger using a phone, she nodded and began scanning. Bill typed a message to the hijacker, demanding to know who he was. The reply came in seconds. The hijacker reminded Bill of the dwindling time. Nancy and Jen, they marked off dozens of names. Jack Hammond appeared on 3 different screens, his phone glowing continuously in his hands. Remember to subscribe. The best part is coming and you don't want to miss how this ends. His phone rang. Marinick from TSA Ground Command. He demanded to know what was happening up there. Bill gave him the abbreviated version. Marinick's voice crackled through the line. He warned that jumping to conclusions in this situation was not wise. A new message arrived. Bill read it and felt the blood leave his face. Jack was moving. Bill saw him rise from his seat. Bill followed. They wrestled in the narrow space, the metal of the stall digging into Bill's back, Jack fighting for something Bill did not yet understand. Jack's eyes went blank. The new message arrived. The hijacker congratulated him on the first kill and instructed him to reset the timer. Another passenger would die in 20 minutes unless the money was received. The cockpit door hissed open. Captain David looked up. The captain informed Bill that they had tracked the account number. The account belonged to Bill himself. Bill stared at him. The words did not make sense. They rearranged themselves in his head and still refused to form a coherent picture. Behind him, in the doorway, Jen stood listening. She had followed him. She had heard everything. The TSA was ordering the confiscation of Bill's badge and weapon. Captain David held out his hand. Jack's phone. The screen flickered back to life. They scrolled through the messages, searching for something, anything. The hijacker had kept Jack occupied with a series of false leads. Distraction, misdirection, and then, buried in a folder, labeled with a single number, a reference to a briefcase. The overhead bin above Jack's seat, and opened the lock. White powder compressed into hard rectangles that caught the cabin light. Jack's final words made sense now. He had claimed he needed the money. Bill stared at the drugs and felt nothing but contempt. Nancy's asking if anyone had seen Jack. He told her that Jack was dead. He gripped her shoulders and told her to stay calm, to do exactly what he said, and to tell no one else. The timer showed 12 minutes remaining. They were going to conduct a random search of selected passengers. The searches began with Fahim. He was a doctor, clean. Next came Charles, an attorney traveling to Brussels. His hand shook when Bill patted him down. Nothing. Riley identified himself as a police officer before Bill could ask. His posture was rigid, his eyes too watchful. He offered to help. Bill told him to stay in his seat. His phone buzzed. The hijacker told him to stop playing games. Bill looked up. Across the cabin, Tom was watching him. The man from the departure lounge, the one who had asked about his destination. Bill grabbed Tom by the collar and dragged him into the aisle. Marinick's voice came through the phone. He said they had confirmed Tom's identity as a schoolteacher and instructed Bill to let him go. Bill did not let him go. Bill bound Tom's wrist with a zip tie and checked his watch. 49 seconds. He drew his weapon, the one he had not surrendered. A new message arrived. The hijacker stated that the death did not have to be a passenger. Then Bill moved toward Nancy. The plane lurched. Turbulence. The door was unlocked. Captain David was convulsing in his chair, foam collecting at the corners of his mouth. His eyes rolled back to white. Bill sent Nancy to fetch the doctor. The doctor said it was poison, but he could not tell what kind. Bill reset his timer and told Kyle to lock the cockpit door and not open it for anyone until they landed.
producer interview.
He stepped back into the cabin. Jen introduced him to Zach. She explained that he was a programmer. Zach spoke quickly, his words tumbling over each other. He said he could send a virus attached to a picture that would force the hijacker's phone ringer off silent, allowing them to track it. Bill told him to do it and handed over his phone. He gave Zach 10 minutes. He announced the closure of the business cabin. Zach finished with 30 seconds to spare. Bill took his phone, looked at the picture, a generic image of a sunset.
I need every passenger to raise their hands above their heads and remain silent for the next 60 seconds.
He ordered everyone to keep their hands visible. He listened. The cabin was silent except for the drone of the engines. A phone rang. Bill followed the sound. Row 12, seat C. The attorney stared at him with wide, innocent eyes. Charles insisted the phone was not his. Bill pulled the phone from Charles's jacket pocket. The screen showed the picture, the sunset. He asked why it had rung if it did not belong to him. Charles convulsed before he could answer. His body arched, his mouth opened, and then he was gone. Other passengers were standing. Someone shouted that Bill was killing them. Riley formed a group. Bill saw them gather in the rear of the cabin. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. What happens next will change everything. Bill locked himself in the restroom. His hands shook as he lit a cigarette. He had killed Jack. 2 men were dead, and somewhere on this plane, the real hijacker was watching him fall apart. He noticed a hole in the wall, small, almost invisible. It led directly to the cockpit. A thin pipe, no wider than a drinking straw, was wedged beneath the basin. Someone had blown it through the pipe, through the hole, directly into the cockpit. Bill returned to Charles's body. He searched the collar of the dead man's shirt and found what he was looking for, a tiny pin embedded in the fabric, designed to deliver a fatal dose on contact. Charles had been a delivery system. Bill found the woman who had used the restroom before the captain's death. She was trembling, eager to help. He asked who had used it after her. She said, Jen, the woman in the window seat. Bill cornered Jen in the galley. She did not run. She did not cry. She looked at him with exhaustion that had nothing to do with the flight. He demanded to know why she had sat next to him and why she had stayed close. She explained that she had a terminal heart condition. The doctor said it could kill her at any time. She had just wanted the window seat. She had wanted to see the clouds one more time.
We know this is the hijacker's phone. Can it tell us anything?
It's password protected. I can't get in.
Try guessing.
Jen tried to guess the password 3 attempts. On the 5th, the screen flashed red. A new sound filled the cabin, a ticking. Bill asked what she had done. The phone displayed a countdown. A news alert with Bill's photograph. The headline announced that the FBI was searching for the hijacker of Flight 247 and that Air Marshal Bill Marks had been named as the primary suspect. He'd been framed from the beginning. Bill's mind raced through the possibilities. The only way the bomb could have gotten onto the plane was through someone who had not been searched. Air marshals were not searched. Jack had brought the briefcase. He ran to the rear of the cabin and pulled out the briefcase. Beneath the cocaine, a device no larger than a lunchbox glowed with a steady red light. He carried it into the aisle. Riley's group descended on him. Bill choked out the words between strangled gasps. He told them about the bomb on the plane.
Get off of him.
Tom appeared from nowhere. He had freed himself from the zip ties. He grabbed Bill's fallen gun and pointed it at the group. He ordered them to let Bill go. They released him. Bill staggered to his feet, coughing, rubbing his throat. He explained everything. Tom listened and then handed back the gun. He said he believed Bill.
That's not good.
2 fighter jets appeared outside the windows. The voice ordered Flight 247 to maintain course without deviation, stating that a military escort would accompany them to landing. Bill climbed back to the cockpit. Bill told him to get the plane down to 8,000 feet. He explained that if the bomb went off, the lower altitude would minimize the impact. Kyle replied that they were still over open ocean. He needed to get closer to Iceland. He asked for more time. He announced that they had 11 minutes. He carried the device to the rear door. Bill shouted over them, ordering them to cover it with heavy luggage. They moved with desperate speed. Suitcases, bags, anything heavy piled on top of the glowing box. Bill returned to the cockpit. He told Kyle to start the descent in exactly 3 minutes. Becca was hiding beneath the seat. Gwen tried to coax her out, but the child had retreated into herself. Bill knelt down and untied the ribbon from his wrist. He told her that the ribbon had kept him safe.
That's it. Hold on to it now.
Bill led her to Jen, who opened her arms without hesitation. Then Marinick called. He confirmed that the money had been transferred. Bill put the call on speaker and shouted to the cabin that the hijacker had gotten what he wanted, but Marinick's voice was cold. He said they still thought Bill was behind everything. He mentioned a video spreading online, posted by one of the passengers, showing Bill dragging Tom through the aisle. Bill spotted the passenger with the phone, a young man in a blue shirt still recording. Bill snatched the device and watched the footage. And there it was, Tom, placing something in Charles's pocket as he had stumbled into him during the chaos. Bill turned. He grabbed Riley's weapon, the one Riley had taken from Bill's ankle earlier. Tom ordered everyone not to move. He pulled the trigger. Empty. Riley's fist connected with Tom's jaw. Riley went for it, but Zach was faster. The programmer had been waiting. He grabbed Bill's gun from Bill's own holster and pressed it to his captor's neck. Kyle's voice came over the intercom. He announced that they were beginning their descent. Tom smiled. He said that he and his partner would jump out once they were low enough. The parachutes were already in place. Bill told Tom that the fighter jets would not let the plane land. He said they would shoot them down before they let anyone escape. He urged Zach to disarm the bomb and save himself. Tom shot Zach before he could answer. The programmer collapsed without a sound. The plane leveled at 8,000 feet. Kyle fought the controls. Bill moved. He had been waiting. He feinted left, drew Tom's fire, then closed the distance. Tom went down, but Zach was not dead. He reached it as the timer hit 0. The explosion was blinding. The rear of the plane disintegrated. In the distance, a runway appeared. Kyle dumped the excess fuel, and suddenly, the plane dropped. Becca slipped from Jen's grasp. The child tumbled toward the gaping hole in the rear of the plane. Together, they pulled her back as the plane slid to a stop. Then, the sound of sirens in the distance. End of story. So, thanks for watching. If you made it to the end, you know this is the kind of story worth subscribing for. Hit the bell, share with a friend, and come back next week. We're just getting started.